Welcome to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast, your go-to place for approachable conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach who's on a mission to support 1 million women and couples to experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom. This is the space to go deep, to dive below surface level relationships and mess sex and explore the sacredness that sexuality and conscious relationships have to offer. Because deep connection, spiritual sexuality, full body orgasms, and transmuted sexual energy are available to everyone. And I'm here to serve the collective, to provide the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to access them. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to another Tuesday transmission episode inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. And today we are here to talk about pleasure capacity. Such a fun topic. And what is so key that I think so many people are missing when it comes to the topic of pleasure capacity is how do we actually increase our pleasure capacity so we can feel these waves of ecstatic orgasms in a long-lasting way compared to the short little dopamine hits of some different like Cosmo tips and tricks and things like that can feel really good for a little bit, might help us a little bit, but yet we still feel limited. And that is because we need to do the inner work. And so that is what this episode is all about, is why the inner work is so important for actually increasing your pleasure capacity in a long-lasting way. So you continue to raise your floor for the amount of pleasure you can experience, and you continue to raise that ceiling more and more and get into those waves of pleasure and orgasms where what I've even experienced with this new ceiling of mine more recently is where through these waves of orgasm, it starts to blend between what is and what isn't an orgasm. And even after the fact, you're able to just breathe and feel this orgasmic energy flowing through you. And it truly is incredible. And it is available to everyone. It just takes that devotion to yourself, that dedication. And a big part of those building blocks is this inner work, because you can have all the tools and tricks and toys and lingerie and new positions and even the holistic sex tools that are very impactful. They don't do shit if you don't do your inner work, because you might know how to breathe into your yoni to expand your pleasure, and still your nervous system might be shot, might be holding you back for some reason that has to do with your inner child work, with your shadow work, these different things of fears and shames that are holding you back on that nervous system subconscious level. So no matter how much you build your repertoire of all these different tools, you will be limited until you do the deep dive into this inner work. And so that is what we're going over today. I'm so excited. I love this topic. I love shadow work. It is so important for the reasons that I'm going to be sharing about today. And also, I do just want to quickly acknowledge for those that aren't on my email list, I did miss this past week's podcast episode. I let everyone know on the email list. So this is also a nudge. If you're not already a part of the email insiders, I encourage you to stay updated for all of the different happenings that are going on by signing up. You can sign up for the free honeypot meditation. You get this juicy meditation, and you will stay up to date of new podcast episodes, new events that are coming up, different 50% off pre-sale offers that are actually happening now until the 28th. So you're going to want to get on that list. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to janinemckinnon.com/honey-pot. Sign up for that meditation. You will get all of the information you need. Do you desire to feel confident in your body and empowered in your sexuality? The Honeypot Meditation is a potent 12-minute visualization to support you in connecting with your sexuality and rewiring your subconscious with the confident, radiant energy you'd love to embody. Download completely free through the link in the show notes and get ready to immerse yourself in a visceral experience as you connect with your sensual, radiant essence. Okay, so let's just dive into this juicy content of our pleasure capacity. So first, I will just really define, I guess, what our pleasure capacity is. Perhaps that is a different word for you, so I will just make it really clear what I am speaking about every time I speak about pleasure capacity. And so that essentially is our capacity to feel and hold pleasure within our bodies. And we all have this window of tolerance, this capacity to feel pleasure that is affected by many different things. And what some of those things are is like feeling safe in our body. Many women do not feel safe to feel the sensations and emotions that are happening inside their body. In a society that is geared towards staying positive, pushing through, getting things done, being productive, ignoring the fact that we're tired, ignoring the fact that we're sad or grieving, stuffing down our anger. We are essentially programming ourselves not to feel our body. The more we feel the need to stay in control, to think about everything that's happening, to plan it all out, and to orchestrate things, the more disconnected we are getting from our body. And that is, among many other things, limiting our pleasure capacity because we don't feel safe to just be out of our heads into our body, feeling these sensations, the energy moving through us, the pleasure. Because one thing that can be really scary about that, if we do fully surrender into ourselves, and I have a whole episode on what I'm meaning by that I will link in the show notes for you, because it's not about surrendering to someone else, having them take our surrender. It's about us giving our surrender. It's surrendering into ourselves, surrendering into our wild feminine. And to do that, we need to feel safe in our bodies. We need to feel safe with our partners, or else we just will not let go to that degree. And so that limits our pleasure capacity. The less we're willing to let go, the smaller that pleasure capacity is. And so our insecurities play a role, our shame plays a role, our different stories that we have going on in our head about what sexuality should look like, that we should be of servitude for the other partner, that sex is really for our partner, not as much for us, that fear of being wild, of letting go, the avoidance of our darker emotions, which I'll get into even more. All of these things limit our pleasure capacity. So I'll give you a few examples, both from myself and from clients, where I see people getting stuck and that their pleasure capacity just stays around the same thing, even though they want to try these different things, explore these different things, but they're still staying stuck and might feel these little bits of highs, but they keep kind of going back to baseline with maybe some small adjustments. So, for example, one way this can play out is thinking about those cycles of our relationship. And we can all have our honeymoon phase, whether that is right when we get together with our partner, and also the honeymoon phase can cycle back. It's kind of the summer season within our relationships. And I find one way that this cycles up is after kind of a darkness phase, more of a winter. Perhaps there is some sort of low point within your relationship where things have not been great between you guys. And You've chosen each other, you've reconciled, you've deepened your connection even more through vulnerability. And so you're in this new honeymoon phase where you feel deeply connected with each other, and you're loving having those intimate experiences and having lots of fun and pleasure and sex. And then you kind of go back into old patterns. Your insecurities start popping up a little bit more. You start to become worried about your body not feeling comfortable in your body, not feeling sexy. You start to worry about your partner's turn on, perhaps internalizing that they're not seeming to be as turned on. Maybe they're not orgasming, or perhaps you're getting caught in your head about your orgasm, feeling like you need to, or else they're going to start to internalize the fact that you're not experiencing orgasm. And so all of a sudden we get caught back in our head. We start putting pressure on our sexual experiences, and we go back to our floor of our pleasure capacity. And so we just kind of stay stuck within this range of highs and lows without the highs getting that much higher and without the lows really increasing very much at all. That floor is really staying the same. And not only have I seen this pattern with my clients, but I've seen this with myself in my relationships and within my marriage, where yes, we would have these seasons where we have our summer cycle and we are experiencing more of those highs of our pleasure. And still, there's a cap to it. There's a limit to it. No matter how we explore and play around with each other, yes, there is some movement. There's some deepening of connection and things like this. But that pleasure ceiling for that capacity doesn't really move very much. And it took until I dove into sacred sexuality to really see that shift, for that pleasure ceiling to increase. So even when we hit our lows, I'm still at a higher level than what our high points used to be. And then that ceiling is just continuing and continuing to raise. And that is through doing the inner work. And so I'll break this down a little bit for you. So for some of those examples I used about the insecurities and getting caught up in your head and all of these different things, that is getting you out of your body. So right there, the pleasure isn't going to happen. If you're caught up in your head, you are not feeling the sensations in your body. And your brain is your biggest sex organ. It is going to make or break your experience. And this is something that you actually get to train. And this is what I do within my work, what you can experience inside unapologetic practices and experience on a deeper level inside Ignite, is that we get to train our brain to focus on our sensations. Every time we get up, caught in our head with these different insecurities that are going on, okay, let's focus. I feel his stubble on my neck. I feel this energy, this heat building in my yoni. And so being able to continuously refocus is going to be very impactful for actually building and increasing your pleasure capacity. Now, there's another layer to that with those insecurities and getting caught up in your head. And that's happening because of your subconscious beliefs. It's happening because of the things you've experienced throughout your entire life, often starting with little things within your family relationships, the family culture, hearing the different ways people spoke or avoided speaking about sexuality. All of this stacks on your first sexual experiences, your first boyfriends, your first heartache, different traumas, different memories, the changes in our body, and then the belief systems that go and stack on through media and culture about the changes in our body. All of these things are layering and stacking on year after year, moment after moment. And so that is rewiring our nervous system so that, say, for example, our partner goes to touch our tummy. And like, they don't care. They want to touch you. They feel your soft skin. They love you. They're enjoying the moment. And then for you, you're triggered. Just like that. This was a big one for me that I remember getting over. Is as soon as my belly was touched, I would just cringe and was like, oh, please don't do that. It doesn't feel good. I feel fat. Like, go straight in my head, out of the experience. And that is your nervous system reacting from that belly being touched. Then boom, just like that, fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode is triggered. You are no longer in a relaxed and open and pleasurable state, and you are limiting the amount of pleasure you can receive. Yes, you can communicate. I really don't like when you touch me there. This is my experience. Okay, I'm going to refocus my mind. All of these things help. And if you're not addressing those internal belief systems, if you're not rewiring your nervous system, every time your belly gets touched in that way, boom, you're going to be triggered again. And this cycle is going to continue and continue and continue until you work on those belief systems. And even when your body changes, these belief systems are often still there. That's why people lose all the weight and, losing the weight doesn't make me feel happy. That's because of the belief systems. That's what the key is. So learning how to create understanding, acceptance, love, safety, and belonging for all of our different shadow parts is so important for this inner work. And again, that's why it is such a key piece of what I do within my coaching and within my upcoming program, Ignite. Because each of these triggers, that's what is limiting our ceiling. We cannot continue to expand if we always have this, say, dark cloud within us when it comes to certain parts of our sexuality. Maybe there's shame about really unleashing your wild side. Whenever you start to get close to your edge, get close to your pleasure capacity, boom, you get triggered, your nervous system responds, and then you're going to come out of that expanding pleasure and you limit yourself. And that doesn't mean like you're not still going to have these fine, great experiences, but it does mean you are limited and that there's so much more available and out there. And it just takes your dedication, your devotion, and being supported through doing this inner work. And I believe every woman knows how to do this deep within themselves. I'm the guide to shine the light on these different parts of you, these different processes. And it often becomes this remembrance of, oh, this is how I do this. Oh, this is who I am. I can feel empowered in this way. These different belief systems, this shame, this ain't mine. I'm giving that back and feeling into my feminine power. And that happens through this inner work. It is so, so important. I'm going to say that over and over and over again. And then I will just add to that is the whole thing that I touched on at the beginning with toys and lingerie and new positions and these cosmos tips and tricks. And so what I see those being is like, look, they're not wrong. They can absolutely be fun to play with, and they do have a time and a place. Like Beducated Online, this online sex education platform, taught me how to love giving great blowjobs. I can't believe I just said that on the podcast. I said that privately, but not like publicly. But like, I used to hate doing that. And I did the inner work. Then I used tools like Beducated. And then I had those skills. And I've actually been able to have a throatgasm through giving a blowjob, through having those tips and tricks for how to build my skills in that way. Do you want to spice things up in the bedroom but aren't sure where to start? Beducated is your all-in-one sex education platform, providing you the sex education you wish you had, with tasteful and informative courses on everything from intimate connection, blowjobs, yoni massage, kink, BDSM, tantra, and so much more. Beducated has everything you need to spice things up and explore your curiosities as a couple. Follow the link in the show notes or go to JanineMcKinnon.com/beducated and use code 25 for 25% off. Again, that's JanineMcKinnon.com/beducated and use code UM25 for 25% off Bedukated's online sex education platform. So they serve a time and a place, and when you haven't done the inner work, you're still super limited. If you feel really shameful or wrong giving a blowjob, or you feel like pressured into it and that your pleasure isn't prioritized in the process, and you go down this big spiral, even if you have the skills to do it and do it well, you're not going to end up experiencing a throatgasm through the process. Like, it's doing the inner work that is going to unlock that within you. And yes, that is entirely possible to do. And so when it comes to these different things, this lingerie, the toys, the tips and tricks, the positions, I see them as the dopamine hit, especially when that inner work isn't done. And so if you're ignoring the inner work and you're going to these quick fixes, yes, they can be exciting, they can be fun, they're that novelty. And then after that dopamine hit, it wears off and you're left in the same place. You still have that same floor within your pleasure capacity. You still have this baseline that you're going to continue to go back to, no matter these different things that you try. Now, on the flip side, where you do that inner work and you're no longer triggered by that hand on the tummy, you feel empowered and receive so much pleasure by giving a blowjob, and you feel comfortable and excited to just unleash your wild side. Now, stacking on your skills and your tips and tricks is going to be so much fun. And yes, it can continually raise your pleasure capacity because your floor keeps going up and up and up every time you do the inner work. So that when you work on your skills through, say, things like Beducated, giving a blowjob, giving a lingam massage, there's so many different things within that platform. You are able to increase your pleasure capacity through those skills. But if you don't do the inner work, it's not going to happen. It's that key to move through your shadows, through the darkness. And I say it all the time, but the greatest transformation comes through the taboo. It's through doing the inner work. It's through going into your darkness and facing your shame, your fear, your disgust, getting real up close and personal with it. And then meeting it. There's the process of the understanding, then the acceptance, then the love, then embracing it. It's not all going to happen at once, but as you move through that process, fuck, it feels good. And that is how you stand in your full authenticity. And that is how you continuously increase and build your pleasure capacity. And so this is exactly what we're doing inside the program Ignite, so you can unlock your sensual power and embody deep pleasure, because we are actually increasing your pleasure capacity on that deep level. The first half of the program is all about the inner work. We're going to work through your subconscious beliefs. We're going to work through your inner child healing, through your shadow work. We're going to over and over and over again program your nervous system with love, safety, and belonging, because that comes from within. Yes, our partners, when you have that like divine masculine provider partner, like I feel so lucky to have now, and that has been a journey, and that's like a whole other episode, because I do feel like we've really risen together when it comes to our feminine and masculine roles. It was not always like that. And that's why I really do believe that we as women take the lead when it comes to that, and we're able to rise our partners up alongside us. But I'm getting off track. Let's refocus. But we're continuing to rewire our nervous system with that foundation of love, safety, and belonging. Because as I touched, You are not going to be able to unleash your wild side and fully surrender into your orgasmic, expansive pleasure if you don't feel safe in your body. Because mentally, we can feel safe with our partner. And on a nervous system level, we have some fucked up shit that happened when we were a child, or perhaps we had some very mild cultural beliefs within our family and our community that have just really gotten deep in there and they limit us. There can also be this whole ancestral line, past lives line that can affect this as well. And if you're interested in that side of things, I got a great offer coming up in April for you to stay tuned with. But that's why it's really important for us to do this work over and over and over again, creating that love, safety, and belonging. Okay, I will try to stop saying that over and over and over again. And then once we have created that solid foundation, we have released some of those things that are no longer serving us. We have brought in these more empowering beliefs and really cemented that in our body. I have some fantastic practices for this whole process. Then we start working on our holistic sex tools. We start looking at our pleasure roadmap and how can we really set ourselves up for success to building these states of expansive, deep pleasure within ourselves. And then how do we get to work with more of this energetic side of pleasure and sacred sexuality with things like sex magic, with things like what I did right before recording this podcast through 3-minute practice of breathing into my sexual energy. I'm able to fuel this into podcast recordings. I'm able to fuel this into so many different works of creation, and that's something you can do. So if you are interested, Ignite is on pre-sale for 50% off until the 28th. I can guarantee the price will never be that low. Ever since releasing it, I have added on some more just juiciness to it. I've expanded it to an 8-week container. There is so much support and there's so much depth to this program. It's very intentional to move through with that process with the foundation, so then you can really utilize those holistic sex tools. So I encourage you to get the free honeypot meditation. You will receive one. That meditation is fantastic. It's one of the first I did when I started exploring sacred sexuality, and it's a great first step for rewiring your nervous system to enjoy and feel safe having the qualities you want for your sexuality. And then once you're on the list, you'll receive all of our regular emails for the podcast, for the pre-sale that's going on for Ignite, all the different events, all the amazing things that are going on inside this world. And this year is jam-packed. If I do say so myself, I'm very excited for the different both online masterclasses and Sex Magic Day Retreat and the Soul Summit workshop. And there's a lot of great things. So get on the list through the honeypot meditation, and then you will get access and information through my regular weekly mail out. So we can just rein this all in. I'll summarize that our pleasure capacity is our capacity to feel pleasure. And yes, tips and tricks and things are helpful, but we will always go back to our baseline, and that is reliant on what our nervous system and subconscious beliefs are. So if we want to continuously raise our pleasure capacity, increase our baseline over and over and over again, and increase that ceiling of the pleasure we are able to hold and move through and feel within our bodies, we have to do the inner work. We have to work on our subconscious beliefs. We have to work on soothing our nervous system, feeling safe within our bodies. And so there are many tools available for you for that. Again, Ignite, half off pre-sale. So excited to be bringing this experience out there to people. And also, if you just want to dip your toes, the honeypot meditation is great, and I have a free consultation call. If you just want to chat about things with someone who gets it, no pressure at all, I'm happy to connect with you. So the link is in the show notes for that too. Thank you for listening. And I am just wishing you a beautiful, pleasure-filled week. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you left us a review to help us reach more women and couples so they can experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom too. Until next time, embrace your desire and experience your magic.